Deadly attack by the Ukrainian army. Russian convoy destroyed. Hello, the Pioneer viewers. As you know, our agenda is the Russian-Ukrainian war. While the war continues in all its reality on the front line, the struggle continues in the political arena. Increasing attacks and the tense war environment are leading to larger-scale operations. To wage war, you need solid plans and strategies. Everything must be perfectly planned and thought through. Armies make these preparations in times of peace. Armies that do not prepare for war in times of peace pay a painful price. The better the logistic facilities of the armies, the better the mobility of the troops. The states that cannot ensure the mobility of the army have to suffer great losses. Because while the war continues on the front, ammunition and troop support must be provided to the fighting troops. Troops that cannot see the support slowly deteriorate and leave the war. When the soldiers no longer have the will to fight, defeat is imminent. The Russian army is facing difficult times after the attempted invasion of Ukraine. The Russians have not been successful in their operations against the Ukrainian army and are trying to hold on to the front lines. The Ukrainian army, on the other hand, is trying to seize the initiatives in the air and on the ground. There has been a serious increase in the firepower of the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army's missile systems and fire support means have made Russian targets vulnerable to danger regardless of their distance. Aware of the danger, Russian troops have organized retreat operations in some areas. The Ukrainian army, on the other hand, has started to organize attacks in deeper areas. Last days, the Ukrainian army inflicted heavy losses on the Russian troops in an attack with HIMARS missiles. The attack of the Ukrainian army drew attention especially in terms of the targeted area. If you're ready now, let's examine the attack of the Ukrainian army and other developments together. Videos released the other day showed an attack organized by the Ukrainian army's high-mobility artillery rocket system. The images of the destruction of the targeted Russian battalion were watched by thousands of people in a short time. In the published images, there were burnt vehicles and destroyed buildings. According to the information we have obtained, the attack was carried out by units of the Ukrainian army. It was announced that it was an attack organized by the Ukrainian army using HIMARS systems. It was stated that more than 100 Russian soldiers were neutralized in the attack on the mobilization units of the Russian army. HIMARS systems gave the Ukrainian army extra advantages on the battlefield. After the Ukrainian army started using HIMARS systems, it organized the attacks against many Russian targets. The Kiev administration have shared videos of the attacks organized by the Ukrainian army many times. The tactical missile systems used by the Ukrainian army in the war are very effective. The Ukrainian army is currently actively using HIMARS systems. However, Army Tactical Missile Systems, or ATACM systems, also provide an advantage to the Ukrainian army. Cluster bombs and Storm Shadow missiles also make significant contributions to the Ukrainian army's firepower. The Ukrainian army's attacks took place in the Chuvash region. Official sources in Chuvash region confirmed the attack. The attack of the Ukrainian army was also announced by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. In the statement shared by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, it is stated that a battalion that mobilized to Chuvash region was destroyed. It is stated that the battalion suffered many casualties and there are many wounded along with the casualties. The 1st Battalion of the 1251st Machine Gun Unit, commanded by the Vladish Matuzas in the Chuvash region, was stated as the unit destroyed in the attack. The unit destroyed in the attack was in the region to participate in the Kremlin's mobilization. The region is an important region in terms of its relations with Russia. In July 2022, the president of the Chuvash Republic, Oleg Nikolaev, announced that volunteers would be paid 200,000 rubles upon enlistment. Following this announcement, volunteer soldiers appeared in Chuvash, an autonomous region of Russia. Ukrainian military intelligence was closely following the developments. Ukrainian intelligence, aware of the troops' problems in the Russian army, was analyzing the situation. Observing the collapse of the Russia's military infrastructures, Ukrainian intelligence was conducting reconnaissance work in certain regions, and Russia is known to have a serious problem with their equipment. After the liquidation of the Wagner Group, the Russian army, which has a serious shortage of the soldiers, is trying to recruit soldiers from different regions in order to close the defect. However, the Moscow administration is not getting the attention it wants. Ukrainian military intelligence is constantly conducting reconnaissance and observation activities to analyze the situation of the Russian troops. As a result of these analyses, the Ukrainian army attacks the Russian troops when they are at their weakest. The strong coordination between Ukrainian units is considered to be the most important reason for the success of the operations. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry, while reporting the attack, recently said that the Kiev army used HIMARS to hit Russian operations of Zala 421 16E2 drones in the south of the country. The improvement in the Ukrainian army's artillery units had also greatly affected the attack. The losses suffered by the Russian army has increased significantly in recent days. This situation is causing fear and anxiety among Russian soldiers on the front line. It is reported that Russian soldiers are very restless on the front line and are experiencing a loss of morale. It seems quite difficult to provide transportation to the Russian troops on the front lines. Intense attacks by the Ukrainian army did not give Russian troops the opportunity to recover. The Russian army is having difficulty reinforcing its frontline troops. As a result, it is becoming more difficult to respond to the Ukrainian attacks. Since the Ukrainian army is aware of this situation, it does not give the Russians a chance to regroup and calls on Russian troops to surrender. The Ukrainian army's calls sometimes lead to the surrender of the Russian troops. Moscow is preventing the spread of the bad news from the front line. Censorship on social media makes it difficult for the Russian public to receive news. The Kremlin administration refrains from making statements in the face of adversities. This situation leads to public reaction. The Ukrainian army continues its counterattack on every front where the war continues. In addition, the Ukrainian defense is responding to the attacks organized by the Russians. In statements made by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine at night, important information was shared. According to the statement made by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Ukrainian artillery units hit 9 Russian artillery units. Ukrainian defense also destroyed 12 Russian drones. Unmanned aerial vehicles sent by Russia to the attack at night were destroyed by the Ukrainian defense before entering Ukrainian territory. Ukrainian defense destroyed 12 Russian unmanned attack drones, 2 guided missiles, and 6 reconnaissance vehicles in the last 24 hours. In the coming days, the Ukrainian army is expected to launch stronger attacks and clear the remaining Russian troops inside Ukrainian territory. On days when Russian troops are weak, such an attack by the Ukrainian army can provide important gains. What do you think about the Ukrainian army's deadly attacks? What are the advantages of the Ukrainian army's active use of missile systems? How do you interpret the Russian army's effort to recruit troops? How do you think the Ukrainian army's positions in the war and the counteroffensive operations are progressing? How do you interpret the Kremlin's war management? We value your opinion. Please share it with us.